Hello everyone, my name is Ananksha Lamyan and welcome back to my channel. This is another episode in the series where I interview inspiring women of my life for International Women's Day 2021. And today's guest is Shreya Badonia. Shreya Badonia is a woman who wears many hats. A self-confessed modern polyglot, Shreya is a writer, a YouTuber, a podcaster, a designer, a freelancer, and a really good friend of mine. And in today's video, we are going to discuss Shreya's journey, how and where did she get the courage to switch so many jobs and so many assignments. For those of you who know Shreya, she's also an advocate of self-love. And so we are also going to discuss what it takes to love yourself so fiercely that nothing and no one can deter you on this journey. And super inspiring and amazing things of building your life as a freelancer and starting from scratch. So without further ado, let's welcome Shreya to this chat. Hi Shreya, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Nansha, for having me. So excited.
So before we start right away, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am a writer, I'm a designer by profession, and I have a podcast. I am just a curious person trying to figure out life and sharing my experiences with the world.
So, I remember watching your video on YouTube where you talked about how you made the shift from engineering to design. So, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Like, how did it happen and what was the motivation behind making a career switch at such a young age?
Yeah, that's a very good question. You know, when I was growing up, I thought the only way to live life was to follow what everyone around us tell us to do and do what everyone around us were doing. So I remember the day my 10th board exams got over, nobody never really asked me what I wanted to do. So the day my 10th board exams got over, my dad got took me to his colleague's place, and we got so many books for IIT JEE preparations. So I didn't even enjoy my freedom after the 10th board, and I started preparing to get into the best coachings in Bhopal. And I never really thought whether I wanted to become an engineer or not. It was decided for me. So when I got into an engineering college, I got into computer science and I started going to classes, and I realized that something was missing, you know. I was not happy, and every day felt like I was climbing a mountain. It was very depressing, and it was I knew that something was more, and that was not for me. And that's when my sister was preparing for her. She was in 12th and she was giving multiple competitive exams. And that's when my mom asked me to appear for NIFT. And then when I got into preparing for that exam, I realized that maybe that's something I would enjoy, design and art. That's when everything happened.
That is so interesting. I mean, did you always do art or design before, or was this the first time you attempted something like this?
So I've been always interested in all of these things like colors and photography, but I never knew that that was an option for me, until I saw the curriculum of NIFT entrance, and until I prepared for NIFT, I never thought that I would be able to live that life. So I never really paid attention to it.
That's so fascinating. Most people they have this mindset that once they get a college, they'll just settle with it, even if they hate it. But you made such a bold move after just 1 year of engineering. So how did that courage come? Like, where did that mindset come from?
I think the credit has to go to my mom. She is the strongest person I know, and if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be where I am. And she was the one who suggested this idea, and she was the one who, uh, took care of everything and made sure that I get to do what I love, because she couldn't do what she wanted to do. So that's where all the courage came from. So yeah, it would be my mom. Yeah.
Wow, that's so empowering that your mom inspired you so much. So I just, have this question that you have always talked about self-love. You have a podcast about it, and you have written so much on Quora about it. So how did your journey with self love start, and how did you start practicing it? How and when?
So, I had no idea about self-love when I was growing up, and I was a very shy kid, you know. I would not even talk to my friends, my cousins. I was just live in my own world. And I think when I was 16, so when I was 16, everything happened in that year. So my parents, they got separated, and I had my first heartbreak. I lost my first pet. So those 6 months were like the rock bottom of my life. And for everything that happened, I was blaming myself. And I was like, Shreya, this happened because of you, for everything. And, you know, all this while I kept blaming myself. And I don't know if I don't exactly remember if it was a book or a video, but I read somewhere about, how you need to treat yourself with respect, and how you need to love yourself and cultivate a healthy relationship. And that's when I realized that all this while I was being a very mean person to myself, and I was blaming myself for something I had no contribution to. That's when the self-love thing happened.
I mean, it's so amazing that at 16 you had this clarity to be kind to yourself. I think most teenagers do not have that kind of mindset, because when I was 16, I was also, I used to blame everything that happened in my life, and I used to think that it was my fault. But it's really amazing. So, since so many people struggle with loving themselves and being compassionate towards themselves, can you give us some tips for our listeners right now, how they can be compassionate to themselves?
I first of all, I would like to say that I was not clear. Self-love is a journey that it's never ending. Every day I learn something new about myself and about this ideology that I live by. So first of all, you need to understand that even though I provide you some tips and guidance, you that is not going to be sufficient, because that you have to figure out for yourself. It's not a same journey that everyone follows. Your journey will be completely different than mine. But one thing that has stood by, and stood by me for so long, is treating myself like someone I love. So if something I do wrong, I make sure that I treat myself like I would treat my mom. So if I fail at something, would I say the same things that I say to myself? Like, I remember for a longer period of time, I would call myself a loser, and I would feel sorry for myself. So, once the self love shift happened, I stopped feeling sorry for myself, and I uh, came out of that victim mindset. So that was a life changing moment for me.
So, like you said that the way we talk to ourselves, that also matters a lot, right? Uh, when you stop calling yourself a loser and start telling yourself that you can do it, then I think mindset is also a huge component of success, right? Like, so much of what we can achieve depends on what we tell ourselves. So, like, that was, like, my what I wanted to know, like, because the voice inside our head has such a big role to play in what we achieve. So how can we make it kinder? Like, uh, how can we stop it from saying mean things to us and say kind things instead?
I think, first of all, this is a very important part, because even if we have a partner or a best friend, the person who we talk to the most in the entire day is ourselves, because this is constantly running, running, running. So once you understand that this voice, actually the narrative that goes inside your mind, controls your life, then you will be more conscious about what you tell yourself. So this doesn't happen overnight. I remember that when I was trying to cultivate a positive voice inside my head, it was not easy, because imagine for 20 years or 20-25 years you've been listening to that negative voice. You are a loser, you can't do this, and suddenly you want this voice to turn into a positive person. It doesn't happen overnight. So you need to give yourself some time, first of all. And every time when you hear that voice, you need to go down the rabbit hole. So, if I'm writing, let's suppose if I'm writing an answer on Quora and it didn't perform well, then sometimes this voice would tell me, you're not a good writer. Then you have to question that voice. Why am I not a good writer? So this voice will tell you XYZ reason. Then you question it. So when you start questioning things, you will realize that this voice is baseless. It doesn't have any, uh, solid background to stand on. And that is one thing. And another thing is you give power to that positive voice in your head. So that happens when you put in the work, when you put in the effort, when you work out every day, when you eat healthy. So it's like a vicious cycle. So what you do outside, like a person who's working hard will automatically feel confident, and a person who's not working out, he'll feel like, okay, I haven't done my I haven't given my best. Then he will automatically feel timid and not sure about himself.
That's so powerful. I never thought of it this way that, you can actually question that voice in your head. And when you question it, you find the reason that actually it's not true. That's a very interesting way to know whether this voice is saying the truth or not. And the fact that you stated that confidence, I mean, confidence comes from working on yourself. That's also very true. And I also think that confidence is not something that's always there. I mean, even the most hardworking person can still struggle, so it's also a constant journey, right? Like even if you feel underconfident on some days, you can always bring it back by working harder or putting in some extra effort. So yeah, that's a really powerful message here. So
Yes, exactly. And I think, like every other skill, confidence and self-love, it's a skill. The more you put in the work, the better you get at it.
yeah, absolutely. And I think you are a prime example of it because you have taken so many risks in your life and you have jumped so many careers. Like you had a job, then you are also a writer, you are a podcaster, you are a YouTuber, and then you also quit your job and now you're back to working gigs again. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey and what was the biggest motivator behind each step that you took along the way?
Uh, that's a very good question, and I really want to talk about this because a lot of people don't really share their career graph. So for me, I feel like I want to explore a lot of things. I don't want to settle into one thing. So I have been a designer for the past 4 years, but I have a lot of like a lot of job changes, and I have worked on multiple projects because I feel like to understand where you really belong, you need to experiment with your career. And I'm not saying that you need to leave your job every month, that's not feasible, but you need to challenge yourself. So every time I found myself in a comfort zone, I challenged myself to take another step, to do freelancing if I was in a 9 to 5, or to go out right for 2 months, or to do something totally different from what I was doing. So that has been a totally, it's been an amazing journey because it had taught me a lot about myself. And when you try 100 things, you realize that you don't want to do the 99, but you find that one thing that you truly enjoy. So when I left my job in December, it also happened because of COVID and I couldn't go back to Bangalore. So I wanted to try something different. So I asked myself to do writing for 2 months and just to try different things. And it went well, but I thought I would be able to build a business in 2 months and all of that. But when you actually do something, you realize that it doesn't happen in 2 months. Businesses take years to build, and building something from what you love doing, like making videos or podcasts or writing, it takes a while to make that shift happen. So I started doing all of that because I wanted to share my story and tell people that you can choose a life that you want to live and you can design your life. And I did it because I truly wanted to do it. There was no pressure from anyone, or there was no idea of making money out of it. So, but when I left my job and I did it for full time for 2 months, I realized that I was trying to make money out of my passion, like I was trying too hard. And then I remember that TED talk by Elizabeth Gilbert, where she talks about how your art or your passion doesn't really have to make money. And ever since I felt that pressure, I said to myself that maybe this is time to go back to designing. So that's when I started working as a designer again.
That's very interesting. And I have also watched the TED Talk of by Elizabeth Gilbert. And I think it's very true that if you take away the pressure, you can enjoy your passion more. But again, there is this conflicting school of thought that says that when you monetize something, it should be something that you do anyway, something that doesn't feel like work. And mostly it's always something that we are really passionate about, right? So I was watching this video by Ali Abdal where he was talking about this, that you need to monetize something that you do anyway for free. So that is a conflicting thought. So what is your take on this? Because something that I have been trying to do, because writing is my passion and I have monetized it. So people say that it takes the fun away, but I haven't felt that yet. Although it's very new for me, it's like 8 months. So I cannot say that. Maybe people will feel, I might feel it after a few years. So I don't know. I'm just curious. What's your take on this? Like, do you think it's possible to make your passion your profession and still not burn out and enjoy?
Absolutely, it's possible, and it totally depends on what kind of passion you have. Like for me, designing is passion as well. So if working as a designer, I am working on something that I love doing and I'm passionate about. But the only thing here is I wanted to be my own boss. So that was the whole point, to get up whenever you want to have that kind of freedom. But there are a lot of people who are making tons of money doing doing whatever they love doing, and there are a lot of people who are making money by not doing what they love doing. So it totally depends on how you monetize what you're doing and what is your business plan or how you manage to monetize whatever you want to monetize.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So, like I am starting out in this world of freelancing. You have some experience in this. So, we keep hearing reports online that women are paid less than men in the world of freelancing. So, what is your opinion on this? Have you ever felt discriminated against because of your gender? Like, do you think men have it easier in the world of freelancing?
I think partially yes. And to be very honest, I haven't experienced that gap between because of my gender, but I think men, they have it easier because they are more vocal about what they want. Women are not. So when a men, when they get a freelance project, they know how much they want and they are very vocal about it, unlike women. So I think it's not because of gender inequality, it's because we don't say what we want, and we I think we don't ask for how much we deserve. We always cut ourselves short. So I think that's the mindset of women. I'm not sure. I think this is my observation, and I've seen my friends struggle with that. So that's what I've noticed.
I mean, yeah, it might be true because, especially in a country like India, we are always told that, as a woman, your needs and wants are not valid, but you are supposed to, stay silent and suffer. And how much you can suffer is actually a measure of your strength, which doesn't really make sense, but that's how it is said. So today I was having a conversation with a friend and a freelancer, and she was also trying to quote a client something, and she actually quoted something very less, and she asked me, do you think it's too much? And I was like, no, it's not too much. You're working for 10 hours a week. You should quote at least double of that. And she was like, really, is that so? But finally, thankfully, she agreed to do that. But I think it's true that women find it tough to say what they want or how much they want. And I hope this changes soon in the future. So, yeah. And Apart from that, so since you talk a lot about self love, so when you post when you post a lot of content online, you open yourself up to that hate and trolls on the internet, right, who post meaningless hate comments for no reason. So as someone who is very vocal about loving themselves, how do you deal with hate on the internet, and does it affect you sometimes, and how do you suggest other people should deal with hate on the internet?
I think self-love has a lot to do with a Stoic philosophy. So, you know, when you have a healthy relationship with yourself, it doesn't matter what your mom says about you or what your friend says about you, because you know who you are and you know that whatever they are saying is not true and it doesn't bother you. So, same way, when somebody says something about you online, it doesn't bother me actually, and because I think when people comment something online, it says a lot about them and not me. So in the beginning it used to bother me a lot, but then, you know, ever since I've grown in this journey of self love, I've realized that everyone has freedom to say what they want to say, and how I react is under my control. So imagine if I want to stop a random stranger online, okay, you don't comment that, I can't do that, but I can tell myself, ki Shreya, that's okay, maybe he had a bad day, you doesn't have to take it literally. So I mostly ignore them, and I think there are so many people who comment nice things about me. So I ask myself, where do I want my focus to go? I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's a strategy I use also. Just ignore them because you can't change what they're saying. So, the next question is that most people, especially women, they find it easy to, settle into a life that has rhythm and that has some familiarity and comfort. And most people think that they don't have any hobby that can be monetized, that they can't even have a side hustle. So, for people like that, what are your tips? What can they do to discover a niche, and what can they do to, really live a life that's better than settling?
I think it all comes down to self awareness, because see, I can't tell you what you're good at. Your mom can't tell you what you're good at. There are so many things that you do alone when nobody is watching that only you can tell. Like, I remember I started writing when I was 13. Nobody had any idea that I started writing when I was so young, but only I knew that okay, this is something that I am interested in. And you know, I started journaling also pretty young. So nobody knew that journaling was something that I was passionate about. Only I knew, because I spent that amount of time in introspection, in reflection, and understanding who I was. So when it comes to finding your niche, you know, there is this saying by Jeff Bezos. He says, you find a career, but your calling finds you. So, what you're passionate about, what you want your niche to be, it comes to you. And it comes to you only when you practice hundreds of things, only when you spend time with yourself, only when you experiment with different hobbies and different games and different things, then only you'll understand that you are good at something. So I think there are two kinds of people, like like Sachin Tendulkar or like again Elizabeth Gilbert. They were 4 or 5 when they got to know that I want to be a cricketer or I wanted to be a writer, respectively. But there are other people like us who have to try multiple things to find our voice. So I belong to the latter. And if you don't know what you're good at, you also belong to the latter. That means you need to experiment more.
Yeah, that's so powerful, right? When you try more things, you will realize what you're good at. And even if you fail, that's all right because you learned a lesson that maybe this is not your thing. Like, I always thought I would be a writer. I mean, I'm still a writer, but I recently discovered that I also enjoy making videos. I never thought I would be doing that because I was so shy in school. So, yeah, it's like I'm still discovering, and I'm pretty sure that it's true for all of us that no matter where we are at in life, we just keep learning new things and always exploring ourselves. And it's never complete. We're always a work in progress. I think that's a beautiful thing about us humans, right? Because there's always so much to learn. So, yeah, that was a really you gave us some really amazing and insightful answers. So before we conclude this, Shreya, is there anything that you wish I asked you but didn't, or any message that you have for our listeners?
I think learning is an integral part of life. And if you're not learning, that means something is not going right. So just spend time in learning and experimenting. I think that's what I want to tell people.
That's so amazing. And I also want to add something here that we people, like most of us in today's times, we are so crushed by failure, right? If something doesn't go according to what we planned, we are just demotivated. But I think a good mindset shift here is to treat every failure as an experiment. And then you can just move on to the next one if it fails.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you can only connect the dots backwards. So things that you think are failure may be the reason you are successful tomorrow. So just keep at it.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Shreya, for doing this interview. It was a really nice time talking to you. And I wish you all the best in all your future endeavors. And I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so much. It was lovely being on your show, Anamsha. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it as useful as I did. And among these so many interesting and inspiring things Shreya said, here are some things that stuck the most to my head. And the first of them is that of all the people we talk to in our life, the most we talk to is ourselves. Because this voice in our head is constantly going on and on. And if we monitor the way we talk to ourselves, if we monitor our self-talk, we can change our fear into our confidence. And also, something that Shreya keeps on repeating all the time in her videos and her write ups is that treat yourself the way you would treat your sister or your mother or your best friend. You would never be harsh or rude to your best friend. So, why are you hard to yourself? That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching this. And if you have any questions for Shreya or for me, let us know in the comments. I make sure to answer all of them. I'll see you again soon with another inspiring video with some more super inspiring women. Till then, stay awesome and bye.